What's up, guys, and welcome back for another solo mining episode. In this one, we're going to be talking about budget fleet mining. So we're going to be very ISK conscious with this. We're going to be using two coveters because I know I don't show a lot of coveter stuff on this channel. But interestingly enough, both of these coveters plus fit is half of the cost of the hull of the Hulk. So we'll take these guys out. We'll just kind of show some mining, talk about some budget conscious decisions and thoughts. And in terms of the Porpoise, we haven't changed a whole lot. You can't really make the Porpoise too much cheaper than it already is. But for this video, what I'm going to be doing is we're going to be running the Tech 1 industrial core, because this one, instead of using 150 units of heavy water, it only uses 25. So that means we're going to have to use this fleet hanger on these coveters, which means that we're going to get a lot of mining time out with this Tech 1 and kind of showcase how that all looks and everything. Alright, let's go ahead and go over the fit and the numbers and all that. Now, obviously, this is going to be budget friendly, so we're literally spending very, very little. If you compare the cost of this setup to two Hulks, I mean, two Hulks fitted, you're looking at north of 600 million. These two alts being fit with these ships is like 150. So our yield is going to be lower, our shield is going to be lower, but we're going after thrift, right? So we're going to choose to opt to go with strip miner 1s, because in most cases, if you want to go budget friendly, then not spending on crystals and stuff is kind of where you're going to be at. And also, we got to give ourselves a little bit of CPU as well to get these lows in here. I'm not running damage control or power diagnostics like I do on my Zoomers, because we just want to get as much yield out of this low cost hull as possible. So mining laser upgrade 2s on the lows, and then our mid slots are going to be a compact multi-spec and then a medium shield extender, and then we'll run a medium core defense extender 1 with 2 medium processor overclocking units. And like I said, strip miner 1's there. And then for the drones, we're just going to throw in some light Tech 2 combat drones. Now, I ran the same math that we did in the previous episodes with these coveters, unboosted 2 coveters. It comes to about 43.6 cubic meters a second. You're going to do about 1.5 million belts per an hour. That's going to roughly get you 19 million an hour, so 9.1 days here. And this will double, obviously, when we pair it with the Porpoise. Now, we're going to be running both coveters with the Porpoise, but I think that this setup is probably better if you've only got 2 accounts and one of them is a Porpoise pilot, and then you want to get as fast of a cycle time as possible without necessarily breaking the bank. So I would consider the coveter a really good slot in for those people those alts that are not quite to Exumer yet, but still want to have Hulk yield for the most part. And then obviously when you do get trained into Exumer, you just go straight into the Hulk. But then there's a lot of use cases for this coveter as well. I mean, I've seen the coveter used on moon mining in nullsec, especially with big operations, big multi-box operations. I think the most I've ever seen was I passed through one system once, and there was an Orca, and there was 20 to 25 alts with it, and they were mixed. Most of them were coveters, and then some of them were retrievers, but that was an insane sight. And when you're operating at that kind of scale, when you're I would say 10 or more alts, especially in nullsec, then the 79 million fitted ship looks a lot better at scale than a 300 plus ISK 300 million ISK ship. Because if you put a 400 million fitted Hulk on 20 guys, that's a lot. That's a lot of ISK on field for sure. So let's go and look at some gameplay here and kind of show you guys kind of what to expect. And it's pretty simple. I mean, it's just about you got 9,000 cubic meters on the hold, so we're going to be leaving the fleet hanger for the Porpoise open. That way we can drag compressed ore in there. That way we don't have to worry about running out of space, because this is 9,000 cubic meters as opposed to the Hulk's 11.5. So we have a lot less of a margin. We're going to get probably we're going to probably get like maybe two cycles in there before we have to absolutely compress. But in most cases, we're going to be compressing every single cycle and moving that stuff. And then from the porpoise, we're going to move it into the mining hold there. We're also going to test out here that we're not going to run the siege module the whole time. A lot of reasons why you would not is try to save heavy water, and also be able to retain some movability. But the reason I run the compressor or run the siege module all the time is because it affects the boost. It actually gives you better boost. But in the terms of like just being budget and ISK conscious and stuff, we don't necessarily want to be locked in place when we don't have a lot of working capital. When you don't have a lot of working capital as a mining operation, you need to like take less risk and only compress or so when you need to. Now, I don't think that, and you can also do, and if you're not compressing the whole time either, you can just drag the raw ore into the fleet hangar as well. That works a lot better with one hull or with one ship. But since we know we're basically going to be compressing every cycle, it's going to get really tedious. I mean, you're going to have to probably, just for simplicity's sake, run the siege module, which I'll probably end up doing here. But because it's just turning it off and on is just ridiculous when you're compressing as fast as you are to help keep these coveters empty enough to keep their lasers on. So keep all that in mind and everything. But otherwise, the yield here is actually pretty good. I mean, you have very little, it's a very inexpensive setup to get there. The most challenging thing here is just getting everybody trained to the level where you can do it all efficiently and everything. It's just, it's so easy as a miner to want to push for high yield, get into the best ship, and chase that dragon. But even for me, it's like it's been a long time since I've actually ran coveters. But whenever I started, before I was in a corporation, I was in a retriever for a while, just kind of going after it. I didn't understand fleet boosting. I didn't even know that was a thing back then. So like my progression essentially from the beginning was like I was doing venture stuff with the career agents back then, and then basically looked at the mining barges and decided on the retriever because it had the biggest ore hold. And I think that's a very common kind of train of thought. It's like, I just need something with a big hold, a big ship that I can go out there and put a lot of ore in and do the thing. And then whenever I joined the first corporation, I mean, I still wasn't into exhumers, but I used coveters back then, got boosted. It was just so cheap back then, so much cheaper than this now. I mean, and our corporation actually built coveters, procurers, and stuff like that in HiSec and sold those. That's how we kind of made a lot of our money, because we were able to mine that rack vein and had everything we pretty much needed, and still had a noms and in HiSec and stuff. But like once I got into Exhumer, I pretty much never looked back. I mean, this fit now cost like 79 million, but back then I want to say it would have probably cost us like less than 50 million back then. And it's still economical. It still makes sense. It's like you're putting less on the field in terms of ISK. And even if you're not necessarily solo mining, if you have somebody else out there with the burst going on, and all you bring out is coveters, then if that was the case here, then we would only have 150-ish million on the field, and we'd be doing considerably well, all things considered. Especially not being in, not being into exhumers yet. Now these alts are running MX1005, which is the mining, the 5% mining yield implant, which isn't hard to get. You just need to get your cybernetic skill up, and it's a pretty good implant. It's just going to cover you no matter what ship you're kind of flying and stuff. But even without that implant, I mean, I think you could still make an argument that, not wanting to just put a bunch of money on the field, that this is a decent setup. And like I was saying, like back then when I was running that retriever, if I would have known like the whole porpoise and the mining boost gameplay and stuff, I would 100% have been running this kind of setup back then, even with just like one coveter and a porpoise and stuff. But like I said, the biggest reason I joined a mining corporation was because I knew I didn't have the knowledge, and I needed to basically join a group. Because I approached Eve like I did every MMO at that point, where I was like, I want to try to play it, unless I need guidance or something, then I'm just gonna kind of stay away from people, which in my mind was like stay away from drama, and which wasn't entirely inaccurate, but I did learn a lot, and I literally went into that corporation with the intention of just learning basically everything I could about mining. And then even back then, I still had the plan of like absorbing as much information as possible, and then breaking out and doing things on my own. But it's weird because it's like if I would have ran a setup like this, and I knew all the things that, I know now, I probably would have never joined that corporation, and then I would have never had all the the dramatic stories and all that crazy stuff. So it's all those experiences all come down to, they're all, you can get some insight from all of it. Wouldn't go back and change anything or anything like that. Now, obviously, the cycle times are a lot better than like the Mackinac and stuff. It's just, as you can see here, it's all about just keeping those hangars clean. And I'm still trying to I'm doing the rotation where we're not running the siege module. That way, if we do, get into trouble, we can just warp off. And the other thing too, you'll notice, I usually hit the siege module, then immediately red it, and then turn on the compressor. And there's times, if you line it up correctly, where your siege is not running, but the compressor still has cooldown, and you can still compress on there. So really the biggest thing here is just about making sure everything gets into that fleet hangar. I still wish the fleet hangar on the Porpoise was extended. I mean, even if they extended it up to like 7,000 or even like 10,000, anything more than 5 would be great. I mean, even the yield on the lowest, it's almost like the fleet hangar on the Porpoise is spec'd for like ventures. But even then, if you have multiple ventures that you're, doing boosts for, and they're all dumping in your fleet hangar, it still fills up really fast. Like one cycle from both of these covetors won't fit in that fleet hangar. So I'm intentionally on one alt, and then the next alt in the stack is the Porpoise, and then the other covetor. And the reason I've started the cycle like that is so basically the way you set up that cycle is, I get on that first covetor, the one, and then start their lasers, and then the next client just happened to be the Porpoise, and then I went to the next one and started its lasers, so that the stack was always one covetor, drop it in the fleet hangar, Porpoise, drag it out of the fleet hangar, next covetor, put it in the fleet hangar, and then double tap back to the Porpoise to put that in the fleet hangar. And they're basically only like compressing whenever the fleet or the ore hangar for the Porpoise gets relatively full. That way you don't have to worry about it. But even like with running a Tech 1 industrial module, it's just it's so efficient on heavy water. I mean, 25 units for a cycle, you could run it for a long time. And that's probably what I'm going to end up doing for my Orca as well, because it's like 150 or something like that, as opposed to like 300 if you run the Tech 1 industrial core. And the Orca can already carry a ton of heavy water in its own right, and that just makes a whole lot of sense too. If you're really just trying to do as much mining for as little operational costs and overhead as possible, that Tech 1 core plus covetors is the way to go. And it covers is like speed, right? So it's like if you wanted to categorize each of the mining barges in being paired with a Porpoise, it's like Procurer would be like your tanky guy. Your tanky, that's where you want protection. Covetor would be like your fast cycle time, get ore from the rock to your hole as fast as possible. And then the Retriever is essentially just like comfort, chill. That bigger fleet or hold on that Retriever is just going to allow you to not have to juggle that ore around like you see me doing here. So that's just basically like quality of life is nice to have. But also like the align time is a lot better on the covetor as well, which a lot of people have pointed out, and it's true. It's just, I don't know. I think that for me personally, it's like I don't mind running the Mackinac at lower or slower cycle times, just because It has good tank. It allows me to kind of chill a little bit. And this isn't necessarily any worse than running like double Hulk. It's a little worse. It's a little more tedious because you do have a 9,000 cubic meter ore hold as opposed to 11.5. But also, the Hulk's yield is so much more than the Covetor as well. It might as well be the same thing. So the real difference between the two in terms of like how much you're micromanaging is pretty much the same. It's just you're not getting as much tank with the Covetors. But that's an interesting caveat too. It's like, you know, the lower yield plus the 9,000 ore hold is you're roughly having to compress move ore the same as if you were doing the Hulk and the 11.5 and stuff like that. So it's not bad at all. But I really do enjoy running these experiments, and like I do take a lot of inspiration and stuff from you guys in the comments section. And this was actually one of those videos where you guys are talking about the Covetor and not necessarily like budget. I don't think I ever saw any like comments about people talking about like how much can I do for, you know, as little cost as possible. But I figured that like a good way to frame my thoughts on the Covetor would be putting it into a budget fleet kind of operation, and I think it'll help a lot of people out. People who might be not fully into mining yet, or they're just getting started. Because for me, the most difficult thing about doing what I do on this series is putting myself back into the perspective of a new player who doesn't have hundreds of billions at their disposal, right? And you guys help realign my perspective too about, you know, what it's like to be, you know, fresh and to be starting from the beginning and not having a crazy amount of assets or capital. And even though this is still, I mean, this whole setup is less than 500 million, which is still a lot for a new player. But you don't have to necessarily go directly into like the 2 Covetor plus Porpoise thing, because you're not going to get there automatically anyway. Normally, I don't even have mining alts come out on field with me until they can at least match or be better than the guys I'm already using. But I think if you scaled this operation down to where it was Porpoise and just a regular miner, and then you kind of scale beyond that. And like I said, if you're going to do anything, if you want to be like efficient with your ISK and everything, and you want to go like anything more than like 5 miners in high sec, and this is just gonna be the best way to go, because it's like 75 or 79, about 80 million per fit, and you can't do much better than that. I mean, the holes for the Hulk by right now are like 350. You saw at the beginning of this video, both of these Covetors plus fit combined were only like 153, right? And you're still going to do probably 30 plus, probably 30 to 40 million an hour if you were sieging the whole time. And that's the only thing that we would be going faster than this, but I'm purposely not running siege full time, because when you have siege on, not only does it allow you to do compression, but it also makes the mining burst better as well. But I think this is good, because if you are and the reason I'm not running the siege, like I said earlier, is because if you're in the position where you don't have a whole lot of capital, then you don't necessarily want to risk being stuck on grid, right? And also, if you plan on actually going out to null and doing moon mining, where people, well, they don't normally run especially moon mining, they don't run the Orca siege the whole time. Everybody will just mine their moon ore, and then whenever the majority of people get their ore holds full, they'll activate it, everybody will compress, and then they'll red it, and it'll be good to go. Because when you have a lot of miners on grid, especially on moons or on anomalies and stuff like that, those rocks aren't that big. You'll kill them really fast, and you'll have to travel to another rock either by burning to it or by going to the pos and then bouncing back to the rock, because they're kind of spread out and everything. And normally, like, I think you probably, in most cases on a moon, especially like in nullsec, you'd be like dragging your Porpoise with the miners following it. And then the Orca doesn't actually play a huge part as far as boost out there. It's usually a stripped down Orca that is only there to just allow compression. and so it can be like 80k off grid from everybody, and that's the only purpose is that. And that's been the kind of the role of the Orca now, is a glorified hauler, unfortunately. But it's good practice if you ever do plan on like going out there and getting into a corporation and kind of doing that level of mining. Doing it yourself in HiSec is just a good way to kind of get that habit going and stuff. Because even in like, let's say you just swapped out this Porpoise for like an Orca, this setup would actually still make sense, because like you're still your miners don't cost a whole lot, and it'll allow you to actually hopefully, the ROI on Orca is really takes a long time to come up with the and mine enough is to replace that ship. That's why I usually tell people just Porpoise is just like the way to go now, unfortunately, because it can pretty much do if for HiSec, it can pretty much do everything you need it to do. If you go do ice, then you'll have to have like an Orca, but chances are you're probably not going to do that, because you're not going to want to deal with the extortion drama around ice and HiSec, and plus you're probably not going to be able to get as much value or as much volume of ice as you would just getting out in one of these systems like this with a setup like this, and play at your own pace and not worry about it. Because it's kind of like the rare ore thing. It's like those ice belts go really quick, because the second they pop in, people are just coming in on them and they'll get melted down pretty quick. And I don't necessarily enjoy that. I enjoy just kind of doing things at my own pace, logging in, making sure there's not a pirate stronghold, figuring out what configuration I want to run, get out there and not have to worry about competition, essentially. But as you can see here, we're doing pretty well. Like I just read the siege there. I read the siege and the compressor just started, which means that I will have a good amount of time to actually get everything kind of situated here. But I'm not doing a crazy long session with these guys, but I figure a good like 20-ish minutes, to show the routine and kind of the yield a little bit. And then obviously like it's about 20 minutes of mining, and you can take that value and do the math and stuff. But I would say you're probably going to be looking at like 30 to 40 million an hour with this setup. And then obviously you can probably do like 15 to 20 if you just had one coveter or whatever. But yeah, I do enjoy the coveter as far as the budget goes, and it works. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and I know you guys were asking about it. If you have anything else you want to like see me showcase or do the math on, or any questions at all, let me know, because that's my bread and butter right there. I live to serve. But anyway, that's pretty much it for the budget fleet mining episode. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you want to support the channel and the series, consider becoming a channel member, and I will see you guys next time. Keep those lasers on and fly safe. Peace out.